What is going on, everybody? So we are going to dive into a little Q&A session. Haven't done one of these videos in a little while, so it's always nice to do these on a semi-regular basis so I can keep y'all up to date on what's going on and I can get to know you all a little bit more and what you want to know about me. The one nice thing is, not many too creepy questions this time, so thank you for that, fans. I love that. So, first question we're going to go into is about the upcoming Arnold Strongman Classic in 2022. We're seeing a brand new event this year, a max squat. Somebody asked, am I excited about the max squat at the Arnold? My honest feelings, yes and no. I do like squatting. I feel like I'm a decent squatter. My best ever squat with just knee wraps was 825 pounds, literally like 2 days before I had my testicle removed for cancer surgery. So I am excited about it. The one thing I'm not excited about it is the timing in which we were notified of when the event is happening. So right now we only have about 8 training weeks to go. So there's really not much time to prep for a huge squat number. Obviously, I feel a lot of us strongman athletes do squat pretty regularly in training, but it's never prioritized as a max lift, right? So for me, I know in my training, I typically stay in that 4 sets of 4, 5 sets of 3, or 5 sets of 5 range for all of my workouts on squat, pushing it in that like 85 to 87, maybe 90% sometimes, but never really to a true 1 rep max. So I wish we had a little bit more time to train for it. As of right now, we still don't know the parameters of the event. All we know is going to be max squat. But I do think it is going to be exciting because it is something we have never seen at the Arnold and something that hasn't been contested as a max, I think, since maybe the 80s, sometime in the 80s for World's Strongest Man at this level. So really, really excited for that event, but just wish we had a little bit more time to train for it. Next question, how did you get into lifting? So, in high school, I was a mediocre normal sport athlete. So played football, was an offensive lineman, was a cheerleader as well. And then in the springtime, I would actually just lift weights for football. Well, senior year of high school, I was working out in the weight room that spring. A substitute teacher walked by, noticed that I was kind of strong and enjoyed what I was doing and invited me to start training at his CrossFit gym. Now, this was 2009. CrossFit really wasn't that popular. It had just really started. I think 2009 or was right around one of the first years of the CrossFit Games. So really, it was just starting out as a business, yet not even thinking about it as a sport yet. So I began training at the CrossFit gym, and what we realized really quickly is I sucked at CrossFit, but I liked lifting heavy stuff. So one morning, I walked into the gym, and it was a Tuesday in June, and the owners of the gym were like, hey, there's a strongman contest this weekend, next town over. We signed you up for it this weekend. So I had no training in strongman. Essentially, my experience with the sport is what a lot of people's was at that time, which was I saw it on ESPN at World's Strongest Man. But I went to the contest. I was the youngest athlete by about 10 years. I was the lightest. I had zero experience. I completely got demolished, but fell in love with it. And that's really what kind of triggered my sport, my love for the sport of strongman and on my journey now. That was 12 and a half years ago at this point, and at that point, I never thought that I'd be here doing this for you guys. Another question that I keep getting asked, are you going to attempt the American record or the world record on log press again? And I can confidently say no. I think this injury was pretty terrible, and looking back on it over the past year and a half, I don't think that record attempt was worth what I've gone through this year in terms of my athletic career, right? So it took a lot. It made me miss World's Strongest Man in 2020. I missed numerous competitions because of it, and I don't think that a record is worth that, to be honest. In my mind, records are meant to be broken. That's why I was so excited for when Bobby Thompson broke my American record, and I was judging that attempt at the Clash on the Coast in 2020. Was it 2020? No, 2021. It was this year. So to me, it's, records are really, really cool to have. They're such an amazing achievement. But at the end of the day, if you're a fan of the sport, you understand that they're meant to be broken. And to be honest, I don't think I'm willing to risk a tricep again for a record. For me, where I'm at in my career, I'd rather get more podium finishes, more trophies, and have a better competition track record and resume than just having one or two really cool records. So, deck also goes to Nick Camby breaking my 105 kilo or 231 log press world record just this past year as well. That was a record that stood since 2015. And for Nick to break it this year, Nick and I have known each other, I think, since like 2012. So for him to break that was really exciting for me as well. So I'm never bitter when a record gets broken. I like to celebrate the successes of my friends and other people in the sport. But for me right now, going for a record definitely is not in the cards. So somebody asked me, what are some of the first key steps to getting into bodybuilding? I don't know. I'm not a bodybuilder. I would assume not eat like a strongman or train like a strongman. Maybe that's a good one, but I don't know. I've never, I have so much respect for bodybuilders, but for me, it's just never been something that I've really gravitated towards, and so I would say find a bodybuilding coach. What 5 events would suit you most in a competition? This is a fun one because I look back at the shows that I've done in the past, what I would like to see in the future, and, obviously my best competition I feel to date was the 2019 Arnold Australia, where I won that contest. And if I were to pick the 5 best events for me, I would have to say it would be a press medley. So I'd want to see probably like a dumbbell, an axle, maybe a block, I don't know, maybe a log if it was light enough at this point, but, some kind of semblance of different implements to press overhead. Obviously, I'd love to see a yoke, probably a deadlift for reps, just a standard deadlift bar for reps would be great. Some kind of carry and load medley, because I feel like when those events happen, I'm in pretty decent shape conditioning-wise and can move really well. And then finally, just a 5-stone series. Just make it nice and easy. So nothing crazy. I think for me, that's a very traditional strongman competition and one that I would excel in pretty well. And, if there's any promoters watching this, feel free to throw those into an event and invite me to it. Most memorable trip or vacation with Joey. So for me, it would have to be our trip to Australia. And if you followed me for a while or you're just jumping onto the channel and finding out who I am, in 2019, I went down to Melbourne, Australia to compete at the Arnold Australia World Series for a chance to qualify for the Arnold Strongman Classic. Fortunately, I won the Arnold Australia, which was a great, great, great achievement. And the months leading up to that show, the competition was March of 2019. Joey and I got engaged in December of 2014. He was 20. I think it was 2017. And so, 2016. So we got engaged December 2016. So we'd been engaged for a while. And we originally had these plans of, doing the traditional wedding, yada, yada, yada. And it just didn't line up. Right? Like for us, it just wasn't in the cards financially. He was in grad school. I was working full time. And to be honest, we wanted the wedding to be more about us. So a couple of months before our trip to Australia, Joey looks at me and goes, we should just get married when we go to Australia. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. So literally with 4 weeks before we leave, we throw together this elopement, find a great spot to get married, and, essentially put our wedding together. A couple weeks before we leave, we tell our families, hey, we're getting married when we go there. But we live streamed it for them on YouTube so they could all be a part of it and still watch. But, that entire weekend was just absolutely surreal because, one, it was a very, very quick trip. We were only in Australia for, I think, 5 days. We landed in the country on a Thursday, had to meet with our Justice of the Peace videographer and photographer that day to do some stuff for the wedding, and then also had the rules meeting because I was competing in a strongman competition. Friday and Saturday I competed, was fortunate enough on Saturday to win the entire competition, and then on stage on Saturday night when getting the award from Arnold himself, he happened to ask us what we were doing for the rest of the weekend. So in front of a couple of thousand people is when I finally announced publicly that we were getting married the next day. So unbelievable response from the crowd and from Arnold himself. Arnold ended up calling Joey up on stage so he could talk to us both. The next day, I actually woke up to a text message from Arnold's assistant asking where and when the wedding was going to be because Arnold would like to be there. Unfortunately, he couldn't come because of his, things that he had to do for the Arnold convention that was going on in Melbourne. But later that evening, after our wedding ceremony and we had done our pictures and stuff like that, I get a FaceTime video, and it is from Arnold inviting us on a beautiful yacht tour of the city of Melbourne and to dinner later that night. So he actually celebrated our wedding with us, which was absolutely surreal, and I'm so fortunate to still have that friendship to this day, and it has led to absolutely some of the most amazing things my life could have ever imagined, and that trip will 100% go down as the most memorable in my career. So, a couple of questions asked and answered. Hope you guys got some more info and insight into yours truly. As always, check out all of my sponsors down below in the description below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, share the video, like the video, do everything you can to give us some love. And until next time, peace out.